I'm preparing for my next World Championship bid, which is the UCI Masters Mountain Bike Marathon Champs. It's something I haven't done before, and it's later this year, but I must begin preparing now. I'd say I'm the favourite, but I mustn't leave anything to chance, and that means getting out and putting in the big miles and doing everything I can to ensure that when I stand on that start line, I'm going to win, unless something goes terribly wrong. While I'm doing this, in between listening to tracks of Jimi Hendrix, I get to think, and I want to just make a couple of observations about the Natural Therapies Bill, which is probably going to be railroaded through and into law by the end of this year, if not sooner. Now, if there's one reason for, and only one reason alone for you to oppose this legislation and to let all your MPs know that this is bad legislation, is I believe, and I'm not alone in believing, that this is a Trojan Horse for fast-tracking through gene therapies, new gene therapies, whether that's a mRNA vaccine for measles, next year's seasonal flu, herpes of various kinds, you name it, they'll have an mRNA vaccine for it. There's $62 million was given to Auckland University to research and develop these drugs, these poisons. There's a facility down here as part of the government's GNS for these for this kind of research as well, and there's a factory down in Timaru, which I assume is all set, ready to go with production of millions of doses. Now, what gets in the way of the wholesale introduction of these drugs, poisons, is they have to get through various regulatory safety hurdles, flaming hoops, including animal studies. And even though this technology has been around for over 20 years, it never got past the animal studies because the animals got sick and died. The COVID pandemic allowed emergency authorization where one of these drugs, the mRNA COVID vaccine, was allowed to bypass all of those safety measures and go straight into human production for human injection. And it has been a complete and utter, total, absolutely horrendous mistake. It's a catastrophe. I'm almost lost for words as to what has happened. Now, the regulator appointed under the Therapeutic Products Bill is given the authority, or will be the authority, that authorises new biotechnologies, including these gene therapies, this playing around with your God script, your genetic code, and that of your children and everyone around you. And I think that the true purpose of the Therapeutic Products Bill is to allow the fast tracking of mRNA drugs, poisons. The regulator can, and this is my reading of the legislation, can decide of his or her own accord that there is sufficient urgency for new drugs, new vaccines to be fast-tracked, to bypass all of the usual safety procedures or processes. That, I think, is the reason why the Therapeutic Products Bill is being railroaded through Parliament right now. and God forbid this gets through. Now, the proponents or the people advocating for this may say, but it's not in the legislation. But it's not out of the legislation either. It's what's written in the it's not what is said that is most important when it comes to this kind of omnibus legislation. The regulator, as far as I can see, will be allowed to fast track these new drugs, and that is scary. It's terrifying. So, for the sake of your family, your children, your community, please oppose this legislation, and please let your MPs know what you think about it. Okay, even if the bill is passed, it's not over, righto? It's never over, and we'll get this legislation thrown out. Thank you. Time to get back on my bike.